Now it could say something.
Check 1, 2.
Yep,
Oh,
you're
okay.
good. And then you hit it again. Testing. So same thing. And then hitting S5. Welcome, everybody. We got a good crowd here tonight. Glad to see that. So I got to do my standard. I know we have a couple of visitors that are here that know our speaker. You can introduce yourselves. Everybody make them feel comfortable.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rick Sandwich. In the photography world, I'm known in two ways. One is as an official volunteer photographer for the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Okay, so when you see the park's social media, website, whatever, many of those pictures are ones that I'm shooting. All right, which is a really cool thing. Now, since there's a shutdown, I am not a volunteer for the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, but hopefully that'll get taken care of. There are a lot of people suffering right now because of that. Whatever you can do to help support that effort to get the shutdown taken care of would be great. I also put on photo hikes in the park that are at a level to attract anybody. We have people from the Cuyahoga Valley Photo Society, we have amateurs, all kinds of folks. And during those hikes, I promote what? The Cleveland Photographic Society, okay? To help get people here. The last thing that I'll say, maybe two, this is my photo assistant, Paula. And how many people remember the name Moto Photo? Okay, how many people were in the Shaker Heights, Golden Gate, or Tower City stores? Yeah, oh well, forget you guys. Those were ours. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Anybody new? First-time visitor? Yes. What's your name? Sam. Welcome. How'd you find us? Okay. Club referral, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a council member.
Okay. Well, everybody make Sam welcome. Feel welcome when we're done here. So I've got a few slides to go through real quickly before I turn it over to our speaker for tonight, and I don't want to take any more of his time than necessary. Ta-da, the darkroom door is out. Any of you ever looked at the darkroom door? It is phenomenal. It's 106 pages, digital. It's live online. It's available on a link through our homepage. It highlights just everything, our competitions, all our committees, just you name it. It's there, a couple of good articles. So log into that and take a look at it. We last night we had a board meeting. We decided that we've got so much technology here that we're looking for somebody to help out with a little tech stuff. And it's to support our computer and AV equipment. This is not website related. Kelly handles our website, and I thought it was rather funny last night. She made this comment that people think if it's attached to electricity that it belongs to her, that it's her problem. And that's not the case. Our website keeps her very busy. So if you're interested in that, you can log in where the view postings is on our website page. And then next Friday we have a people competition. It's a projection. It's too late to enter, but I just want to encourage you to come, whether you've entered or not, to come in person. This is great seeing this many people in the club room. And then we have Jeff Janis is the next Friday night. He's a Cleveland-based photographer. He does a lot of street photography, but I looked him up, and he also shoots for NASA and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm sure it'll be very interesting. Our Back to the Wild, I think we still have 4 or 5 places left. If you want to go to Back to the Wild, $20 through our website only. You have to register in advance. And we have Capture On Labs. We still have a few openings for that. This is unusual because it's a Thursday, but it's an opportunity to go see an actual operating photo lab and see how your prints are made from beginning to end. And don't forget our swap meet. We are starting in the training room. We have over half of the places are filled in the training room now, so don't hang back too far. There's no cost for a table. You have to be a CPS member in order to register for a table and to sell. We have put ourselves out on the web and other places, social media, so getting a lot of interest from buyers. So consider that. That's November 8th. And then we have a Zoom presentation on the next Friday on October 31st. It's Fall Color All in Camera, which should be interesting, by Randall Hodges. And I think that brings us up to tonight. So tonight we have, and I was told I have to do this with my hands, Roger Mastroianni, okay? Mastroianni, like Mastroianni, okay? Obviously in person, he's a Cleveland-based corporate and editorial photography, and what interested me, he does so many different things that I'm like, where was he standing when he took that? How did he take that? But what really got me was there's so many pictures of Cleveland, and I've seen a lot of pictures of Cleveland, and I've shot pictures of Cleveland, and I'm like, how can I not get pictures like that? So hopefully he'll help us out with showing us how to do that. And let me get his presentation set up here. Oh, we're going to hold questions until he's all done because he's got a lot of images. And when we get to that point, make sure you raise your hand so I can get you a mic. Oh, and silence your phones, please.
So to answer your first question about where was I standing, a lot of times I set up remote cameras. So I might be standing in one place and have 3 other cameras going at the same time. So okay. So this is a little bit of a jumping off slide, if you get the pun. How many of you guys have shot the air show? Okay, well this is the beginnings of my air show shooting. To give you just a little quick history, I started out shooting for United Press International, so I got a lot of experience shooting pro sports, and sometimes you get to do things like this, like go right in the Army Golden Knights plane. So, but it also gets your blood flowing about flying and doing aerial photography, and I did a lot of helicopter shooting as far as instead of drone. I still don't even have a drone license yet. So that kind of moved into doing work with Metro Health Medical Center, shooting their life flight calendars. And we did a lot of air-to-air shooting, both from another helicopter or from another airplane. So this is obviously captured over Cuyahoga Valley with the fall colors starting. And we would wait for they called me like the white cloud, because whenever I would sit in like the call room, nothing bad would ever happen. So we'd set up accidents. So we'd go out to Amish country. We'd, set up something with a buggy, because sadly there's a lot of buggy accidents. We'd set up train wrecks. We set up boat wrecks. So this is just one. So these are obviously slide film from 30 years ago, probably 25 years ago. And then will have to be like 32 years ago, because this is my son. We borrowed him. He was just like a couple weeks old. We needed a baby for the neonate cart. And so I brought him down, put him in the cart, and I was taking pictures, and I'm thinking, this is not looking right. I need to get up in the air. So we had the pilot take off. We flew around. My wife is left sitting on the helipad. Saying, what the hell did you take him up there for? So there's a lot of fun with that, but he turned, it really affected him. He likes doing a lot of crazy things. So, and so fast forward, this is like I think probably 2018, and I hadn't shot for them in years, and they called me back to work on their calendars again. So this is they're landing at Elyria, and then sitting out in their, I think they base out in Wayne County at the airport there. Actually, this is probably flying from Elyria to Wayne, and I think they're right now they're looking for birds, because they have to watch out for birds flying through. And then this is at the airport, so we set up the helicopter to fly in front of the sun for sunrise. This slide should probably come before it, because they have to check out the helicopter before they take off. And then in front of the sun, and not a lot happened that day, so I put the helicopter. It's like the giant full moon rise, and I get the guys, can you put the helicopter up? And they gave me like this big, air to whatever walkie-talkie, and I'm saying, can you move the helicopter a little bit to the right? Is that north, south, east, or west? Is that 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock? So they actually, the first pass, the nose of the helicopter went through the moon, and then I got them to move a little further, and we got this one. So this is not a random, like a lot of times you'll get a random airplane or jet in front of the moon. This is actually set up. This is the helipad at University Hospital. So along the way, I did a lot of healthcare work for both Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and Metro. And it's all, like I did a lot of Cleveland Clinic before they had a photo department. Now they have like a 5-person staff, so they don't need me. I did a lot of University Hospitals. And then like COVID changed everything, so we stopped for a while. Then now they have a small staff. I still shoot for them, but it's not as much as before. These are some advertisements for University Hospitals. And this is back in Metro in the operating room. So and it's not, used to be a lot of open, but now of course everything is with the, what do you call that? I don't even know. Yes, well, something. Oh, it's by the hand, so it's not robotic. It's they have everything in a tube, but it's lit up by the light in the tube. So this is open heart surgery, and that's Toby Cosgrove from the Cleveland Clinic, and that's a big aortic ring that puts the major arteries together. So these are all from that. This is all 2 1/4 black and white Hasselblad. This one got everybody in the operating room upset because the doctor said, "Well, you got to get this shot. We're going to flip the heart. You could see this where the artery's going in, because this is a bypass. They're stitching that in. So standing on, you ever see those little things that you put the 1 foot on as they're standing on? Standing on like 6 of those, hovering over the person on the table, and everybody in the room is like, "Who said you could do that?" Well, the doctor said I could do that. And so then there's a bunch of Cleveland, there's going to be a lot of Cleveland Orchestra in here, a lot of theater in here, and then some other corporate work. But this is the old stage at Severance Hall. And this is shot from a platform to get the camera a lot more forward. So this is probably, I'm sure this is 4x5 color transparency. And it's lit with strobe as well. And so this is, but then fast forward, this is the hall after it's been renovated, but this is looking at the setup that I use to shoot the orchestra with lighting. So there's strobes in the ceiling, and there's strobes next to me, and then and then this is all photoshopped together. So this is the setup. And then so we take lit by the strobe, and then the shell available light, and then put it together. But then, so as the cameras get better, as the digital cameras get better, so this is, and I'm primarily all this is the phase 1 systems, the medium format. So this is like either the Hasselblad or the phase 1 camera with the medium format back on the camera. So digital has gotten so good that I'm able to get a picture like this where you couldn't on film before. And then going forward, this is just a couple of years ago. We moved the shoot out to the foyer, and it's lit with strobe plus the light coming in from the back. And so this is what the lighting looks like, and this is the back side of it, and that's the camera setup. And that's the camera I use for all the cityscapes that you might have seen on my website. It's basically a view camera with the movement, so the back slides up and down, left and right, so you don't get your converging lines. And then this is another orchestra. This is the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and they actually have the back wall opens up. We set it up so that we moved the wall a little bit, and then I was on a scaffolding, and we had the whole orchestra turn towards the camera. Put the house lights up so everybody could be in the picture and we could see everyone. So then now I'm going backwards again. This is probably about 1990, I'd say. And this is, so in photography, and like one of the reasons, like I showed you the picture of the guy jumping out of the plane, we build on everything. Everything we shoot becomes like the next, you show that to someone to get the next job. So I was doing a lot of work for Crane's Cleveland Business. So I put together a portfolio, and I call up the picture editors at all the magazines in New York and make appointments and go see them. And so in those days, it's like you had a pager, and if they page you, you got to get to a phone and call up. And so this is the chairman of TRW at their corporate headquarters, which they just finished tearing down in Lyndhurst. and they had a giant picture of Saturn that they took with their satellite, and I positioned him in front of it. But this is going in, setting up my strobes behind this to light that up, and the strobe on him, and I'm shooting it with Hasselblad 2 1/4, and take some Polaroids, color transparency film, put the film in an envelope, and send it off to New York. That's you have to get your exposures right. Obviously, it's not like digital or something where you can fudge it. And so there's a lot of there's a few pictures from magazine assignments in here. Another good client was the Plain Dealer Sunday magazine. So this was an activist, and this is out in front of the Perinuclear. 4 chairmans of Eaton ago. 'Cause it's just, yeah. So this is an image projected on the wall that's behind him, and so there's the things like, if you see the ghosting behind his ear, so 1/4 second exposure, you'll get the ghosting. It's an old problem. It's not a current problem anymore. Another photo for the Sunday magazine, and so this is the ham radio operator, and he has all this stuff to do what you could do on your phone to get the weather. Or talk to people in another country over the airwaves. But that's his call letters, and I had him write the letters backwards. And it worked. But again, it's film, so I don't know if I got it. I had to do it a couple times, and it worked. And then, so this is Franz Welser-Most. He's the current music director of the Cleveland Orchestra. So this is this is his first day on the job picture. We went around Cleveland and took pictures of him. He looks a lot older now. We're actually the same age. So then this is another magazine assignment for like Industry Week, maybe. No. Anyways, maybe it was Business Week. But it's in Elyria Foundry, and the point of this is that you go into these places, and you basically, whenever I shoot, I'm shooting for my portfolio, because I want to get more work from those pictures. So this sort of stuff I can show to the next client and get that kind of work. But actually, at his place, I found the work so interesting that I went back to shoot some more. And so this is on 4x5 negative. That's still type 55 film. So it's 4x5 inch negative and print. So that I'm actually getting my negatives there in the field, peel it apart, put the negative in a bucket, and then it's kind of going out of order here. This is LTV steel, using the same process. But I got this job because I showed them the other job. And now we're back at Elyria Foundry. So what they do is they pour castings, and these guys have to grind off all the metal that comes out from, when you press something together, the metal squirts out, and they grind it all off. And that kind of job gets me this job, which is back again with the Plain Dealer Sunday magazine. This is the FBI SWAT team. And they came to my studio. This is all shot on the 4x5 black and white, negative, positive film. And the thing about when you're using a big camera like that, it gets people to sit. So you have the view camera, and I've got the hood over my head, and it's a big camera, and so it's kind of like a performance art. You get them to do their thing because you're putting on a show for them. But the poor receptionist at my building, she calls up to my studio and she says, "Roger, the FBI's here. Should I let them in?" And they had battering rams and shields and guns, just like you see here. So and then the same style of shooting. So this is now current. This is just a few years old. This is losing my ear. This is one of the musicians at the Cleveland Orchestra. So I have to do their portraits, and so I always try and get something a little bit different than the color ones that we put on the wall. We do some on white, and then this is a new bass player, and this is a viola player, and this is one of the percussionists. But sometimes we get them to do other things too. French horn. And this is the Cleveland Orchestra librarian. And it's a very important job. It's a big job. He's got to supply all the music for all the musicians, there's 100 musicians, and everybody has to have their music with their parts. So it's a really big job. This is one of their former assistant conductors, Brett Mitchell. And this is one of the new violinists. And one of the things I always try to get them to do is to see if they'll throw their instruments. Not really. That's a toy Suzuki violin I have in the studio. But it's just it's the oddest thing, because them throwing any kind of instrument is really weird. But they would never throw, a $200,000 violin. That would be a cheap one. French horn player from the Cincinnati Symphony. This is a new bass player for the Cleveland Orchestra. He's also a really good photographer. If you follow him on Instagram, Brandon Mason, I think is his last name. A new violinist. That's the same person. So actually, this is the only picture I'm really supposed to do. Is this picture, and it's got to look like the same picture I took 30 years ago, so they all match, and it's got to be square so it fits in the frame. So there's rules, a lot of rules just for like old reasons. But then if I have time and the hall is open, we go down and we could shoot in the hall, and this is in the foyer. And so here's a whole series on him. I wanted you to see a variety. And then we also use the same area for portraits. Pierre Boulez, who passed away recently. But so it's a great pose, but if you look at any of his pictures, it's the same. He knows how to pose. It's the exact same picture he does for everybody. I think so the orchestra does, or used to do, residencies every year where they would go out and do community concerts. And this is, I forget the church that we're in. So Jack Suddy, he's a trumpet, and these are pictures for his own CD. This is out in front of the Weatherhead building, which is I've used it a number of times for backgrounds. So these are all lit with strobe. Obviously, you could talk about that. I have some setups afterwards, but and this is another group that he has, the Factory Seconds, and we're in an old factory, but this is the setup. So we've got your strobe, laptop, so we can see what's going on. Franz in Vienna. For whatever reason, this most famous concert house, I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, it's around the corner from his house. This is Brett Mitchell. He's also a pianist. We recently did some portraits of him with the piano, obviously. You know his name. I forget his name. Leon Bibb, yeah. Thank you. And this guy, which is Mayor Bibb, right? That's why I'm getting confused here. So but the thing is, like a portrait like this, I mean, it looks kind of simple because you think, it's available light. Well, the reality is that in a lot of these situations, I have to build like a box to take the light off of him. So I've got to have a big black sheet above his head or a big black card next to him because I don't want the available light in the room hitting him. I want my strobe hitting him for clean light and let the backgrounds burn in. So this could be a good 1/4 inch exposure, but I don't get the ghosting around the edge because he's not lit by, the light's not affecting him. The other thing, because, and then as I'm going back to the picture that I showed in the very beginning of the chairman of TRW, it's the correct color because I've got daylight strobe shooting through this sort of transparent image of the planet. Here, I'm sure that, I don't know what I did to balance it, but in Capture One, this is all shot on RAW. You can separate the background and the subject really easily now. So I can select that background, I can change the color balance without affecting the rest of the image. It's scary easy now, but it's kind of like, but knowing what you're going to, in all these situations, especially if you're doing Photoshop, knowing what you're going to do after is very important to do before you actually shoot, because People think, well, you could just Photoshop that guy in. Like, well, if I take somebody out, what about all the body parts that the other guy was standing in front of? Another editorial portrait. I found shooting under a tree is actually like a really cool thing. It's dark there, but again, it used to be everything I shot was on ISO 100 film. Now you can push a camera up to 1600 or whatever and still get some really great images. So there's another transition sort of technically in my career where I shot everything on medium format up until probably like the Nikon D850. Because at that point, that was like a 40 megapixel camera. At that point, it kind of converged with the quality that I was getting from medium formats. But the bonus is I didn't have to, on medium format, you had to shoot like at f8, because otherwise nothing be in focus, and you need a lot of light to shoot at f8. So here you can shoot at 2, 2.8, f4. You can still get your person in focus. But there was, and even with a Nikon, the autofocus didn't work. And I can talk for hours on why the focusing didn't work and why you need an assistant to shoot wide open if you want to get all your pictures in focus. That's a whole other story. But suffice to say, I switched to Sony because they had silent cameras, and now only in the past couple of years does the eye focus actually really work, where I can trust it and I don't need someone to keep checking focus. So this is another chairman of Eaton. So this is one chairman ago. This is in their new building up in Beechwood. We use this space all the time for their portraits. This is their current chairman. He just this is a few months ago. And this is the chairman of First Energy. And First Energy was a very good client for many years. I don't do much with them anymore. The only pictures they do now are like giving out food and money because they're in trouble. So that's the only kind of PR. Anyways, but this is in a super top secret room that no one's supposed to know about. And because basically it controls all the electricity for like from here to the East Coast. So if you saw the whole expanse of the room, you would see all the different states that it controls, and like getting in there, like I knew where the building was. I'd been there before to shoot, but the PR guy, meet me at the restaurant on this street, and you could follow me over, and we'll get you in. Like, okay, it's like I don't know. Anyways, but this is still, it's a good quarter second to burn in the background, and I have my lights going off to light them up, but it's still a minimal f-stop to work at, so it's a lot easier to work. And there's probably 2 lights on him, one main light, there's an edge light that you see on the side of his face, and the background burns in. This is the chairman before that chairman of First Energy. And again, good soft backgrounds. I have a picture of the chairman before that, but he's the one that's in trouble. Chairman of University Hospitals, Cliff Magarian, Dr. Magarian. And again, a picture like this, though, looks simple enough. I'm sure there's at least 4 strobes in here lighting them up, and the background up too. That's why, like when you see a lot of my pictures, it's always in front of windows, because it's usually like a 1 or 2 light setup for me. When you're in a space like this, you got to light up the rest of the space. I just shot this like a few weeks ago. This is, and I think it's NRP. I think it's NRP group for a magazine called MFE. Don't ask me what any of that means. But fortunately, it's a good space. It had window light, so this in the end was only a 1 light setup. And the other interesting thing, and you probably think this is really crazy, is that up until this shoot, I've never used a zoom lens for a corporate portrait like this. I use zooms to shoot theater and orchestra and like whatever. But the thing about shooting with primes is not just like, yes, they're a lot sharper and you can shoot more wide open with them, but it's just it's a perspective that you're maintaining. If you're shooting with a 50 or if you're shooting with an 85, if you're backing up or going forward, you're actually maintaining the same perspective. When you zoom in and zoom out, suddenly you're doing this, you're taking all this in, or you're squeezing in it. It wasn't really, it might not have been what you lit. So that's a danger in using a zoom. So, but this new zoom is actually as sharp is my is any prime lens I have. I can shoot this thing at f2. It's a 50 to 150 Sony. You could shoot it wide open and be just as sharp as their like most sharp 135 1.8. It's a really great lens, but it's just I use it like I'm using a prime. Like I'm like, okay, I'm going to be at 50, so I stay at 50. If I'm going to change it up, you know, you kind of walk it and not just keep on zooming in and zooming out. That's a mess. It's also a mess editing. So I'm a big proponent of, you know, if you shoot methodically and keep things the same as you're going, when you're processing pictures, it's going to go a whole lot faster in the end. Because, you know, if you're copying from one to the next, your settings are going to copy properly. That's another story. This is we do so many office portraits now. This is out at IMCD, which is a chemical company in Westlake. But this is just a hallway with glass offices, letting the backlight burn in. And I think probably on her left is a big black card to take the light off of whatever's going to hit her from from her right side, my left. This is a recent portrait of a composer and flutist with, I think it's the Peter B. Lewis Fellow. Her name's Allison. Wait. Anyways, I could look it up. But this is in my favorite spot. But this, so, and again, a portrait like this looks simple. It's actually 3 lights. There's plus a window light that's lighting up her arm on the far side. But below, if you, I light up the foyer below so that the back side of those columns don't go dark. So in the wider picture, that would be all dark space back there if you didn't throw some light in there. Pictures for the Cleveland Clinic. It was all those U.S. News and World Report ads that they would do. We would do a series of portraits of the doctors and the caregivers in different spaces. And I think at this point, I was still shooting Nikon. I was doing a lot of this on the 200 millimeter portrait lens. So to really knock out the backgrounds like this. And I think I have a back BTS picture of this here, of this setup. So this is with the long lens. Actually, so you can see along the floor, I have, pretty funny, that might even be a 400, the 400 millimeter on that camera. And I had my lenses set up at the different points. So you can see what I mean about not zooming. It's about walking in and using the different perspectives. And where the person's standing is, I have the big black card to take that window light off my subject because I don't want that affecting them at all. Portrait for Case Western Reserve. And again, so this, matching my daylight to the color of those lights in the window light. That was probably like those lights were a bit warmer and the daylight was a bit cooler. So, and then back in the olden days, I would often take tungsten gels and put them over my strobe or to match the color. This is for Case Western in that new Sampson Pavilion building. It's a big giant building on Chester by the Cleveland Clinic. Another portrait for Case. And this is the chairman of the IMCD Chemical Group. This is just downtown by the convention center parking garage area. I think those windows go back that way. But so this is another thing. So when I'm shooting outside, all these outside portraits that you see, I'm always looking for a shadow to place my subject in, so I can light them up separately and then have the background open up like that. This is the previous artistic director of the Cleveland Playhouse. And in this one, for sure, I had balanced my strobes to match the stage light. A lot of the portraiture that I do for university hospitals is their donors. So this couple, I think he was a past chairman of Parker Hannafin, maybe, and he gave a ton of money to the UH. This is actually down in Georgia. So we went down there to take a picture at their property. Lawyer portraits, constantly shooting these. But this is the setup for it. So this is at the, I I forget what the name of the building is. It used to be, I think, the E&Y building, but it's now something else. But anyways, you can see along the windows, the black cars I have set up to take the light off of them so that it's just my, it's just my strobe lighting them up in the background light. And the other thing that's key is that you see the Apple box. So whenever I have someone stand by a railing like that, I always have an apple box, and you see I have the different sizes of them to the left over there, so that their torso is just above the railing. And this picture, I have no idea if it's the actual picture, because I think I've added like 5 or 6 judges to this shot. This is like the only picture that I'll ever do Photoshop on, because they're in black robes and it's pretty easy to, you can't see the mistakes. And this is the actual setup for it. So in this case, you got the one big light, and you have the edge light on the back side, and there's another light further down the hall. I think the last time I shot this picture was in 17 or 18, and I've added to it a number of times. They come into the studio, and I Photoshop them in. This was out in NASA in their wind tunnel. It was the previous director of the NASA center there. This is Sonia Winter at the new museum, the newly renovated Museum of Natural History, and I've been out there a few times to do shoots of her and the building itself. Jumping backwards, this is the same law firm but a different place. And so what also happens now is this background, I shoot the background separately, and then when new lawyers come in, they come in the studio, and we shoot them in the studio, and I Photoshop them in. It's not my favorite, but so make less money doing that too. Back at Eaton Corporation, and that spot that we use for all their employees. Metro Health, nurses on the floor. Back at University Hospitals, this is in that new Ahuja athletic center with all the windows. Portraits for advertising for them. So this was interesting because typically you only get a few minutes with somebody, and he actually spent like an hour with me working on the picture. So it's one of the reasons why you come away with a better picture. But this was shot on medium format, I believe. This was at the time I was still deciding whether I wanted to keep using it or not. University hospitals. This is an interesting one too. She actually has a glass eye, and the sunlight you see behind her is a strobe because it's raining outside. And this is at a pavilion in a metro park where we met to do the shoot. So it's not cheating in Photoshop, it's just lighting. Another shoot for the Children's Hospital there. I could have, this is how they end up. I didn't go with any of the tear sheets like this. The chairman of the Federal Reserve here in Cleveland. He's actually in charge of all the Wi-Fi in the stadium, this guy. So here's another interesting one too. So again, you think using a footbridge at a office building would be easy. So those windows are totally green. I mean, you have to balance your strobes or totally fix the background, and when you're processing, everything's processed out of RAW. So it's a lot to think about, and that's why the picture itself kind of has a little bit of a blue tint, because that happened to be the happy medium for the whole thing. This is somebody that works for Great Lakes Shipping, but I put this in here because when I was going through picking pictures, I also picked pictures I had setup shots for. So this would be typical of an outdoor shoot if I don't have a building to put them in the shadow of. I have my assistant make a shadow. So she doesn't work with me anymore. I got a guy, he's like 6'4", and so I can get a much bigger shadow going. But so he's a great assistant, but the problem is you always need a stand-in when you're setting up the lighting, and he's never the right height. So most people are like 5'8" or 5'9", and he's 6'4" and a lot bigger. And so when I go to shoot, everything changes. I'm sure you've seen this guy. He's like 102. He's still out there. He's got like the biggest YouTube channel going. It's like the world's oldest surgeon right here. Not surgeon, he's a neurologist in Cleveland. Sonia again from the Museum of Natural History. And a shoot like this, there's a stylist that does her makeup and hair and everything. Back at University Hospitals, this is one of my favorite places to shoot in. This is Seidman Cancer Center. It's in here because I have the setup for it over here. And so once again, they're positioned just under that roof line there, so the light's not affecting them as much. And there's an edge light where you see the hazard, the don't walk here thing, and then my light, and there's the black thing is actually a reflector. And so this one, First Energy, so this is about, sort of creating a scene, but with photographically. And what's going on here is I've actually dialed my camera into tungsten so that the whole background, it's already going to be bluish because it's snow, but to accentuate it, I'm actually lighting him up with a strobe gel to become tungsten, because otherwise it would be daylight. So it's reverse. So I'm making the background blue, and I'm changing my light from daylight. You follow all that. Back in the field with First Energy, and I go up in their buckets, and I have to have my own harness and everything. And even so, the problem with some of these is that, like, these aren't live wires, but I usually have a safety guy inspecting everything as I'm shooting so that none of the pictures get rejected. Chasing the snowstorm around a few years ago. They would keep calling me. The crew was at such and such a place, and I would get there, and the crew was just leaving. So they did this like all day long. Fortunately, I had a four-wheel drive truck, and I'm able to drive through all the roads because nothing's plowed. This is one of those storms we had a while back where it shut down everything. Back in the field, literally. This is a power station, and they're changing this piece of equipment out. And so this is part of another project for. This is actually an Energy Harbor, which is not owned by First Energy anymore. But you all use like the photographer's ephemeris, where you can figure out where the sun's going to be. So to get the sun behind the cooling towers at Perry, and from an accessible point on Lake Erie, there's only like a couple days where you can do it. So that's how this works. And this is another cool thing where. This is inside the cooling tower at Perry, because there's only one that's operational. They never built the second reactor. And then, I don't know if you saw on the website all the frame averaging pictures or read the thing about phase one, daytime long exposure. So I had to go around to all the nuclear power plants that Energy Harbor has in the area. This is Beaver Valley, and there's Bessie and Perry, and I used this long. This is like a 30-second exposure or longer, maybe anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, to get the steam to not look like steam. So we wanted to change up the whole look of the plant, the whole look of nuclear energy. So that's what it actually looks like. But you do the long exposure, and you get that, of course. This is Bessie. And this is early morning. And this is the classic situation where we talk about doing a shoot, I don't know, in November, and nothing happens. We talk about doing the shoot in early spring, and I'm telling them, we got to do this soon, because if you wait too long, and if we wait till June, we're going to have to meet there at 4:30 in the morning or 5 a.m. to do a picture before the sun comes up. And sure enough, they wait till almost summer solstice to do this. And it's like a horrendous problem, because the security at these plants, even though like Energy Harbor owns a plant, it's kind of like TSA that actually runs the security. So there's an extra layer that you have to go through to get inside and make this work. And this is in the marsh at Bessie, which is pretty cool because it's basically a closed off nature set area. Stamping press right over on 65th in St. Clair. I think they make landing gear for Black Hawk helicopters. And the Museum of Natural History. So this is the classic time, which is probably 35 minutes past sunset to get the sky, the right shade, to match the lighting in the building. And then the next morning, Columbus Museum of Art. So if any of you guys are on Chase, the Chase banking app, if you're in a location, you sometimes get like a Cleveland image or a Columbus image or wherever you're at. So I did all these pictures for Chase so that when your app pulls up and it geolocates you, you'll get one of these pictures. I just shot this a couple days ago, Cleveland, from the Lorraine Carnegie Bridge. And I think I waited here probably 2 hours for the right clouds to happen. And then I did a number of 10-minute exposures, and this was probably 7. Because the thing, so we could talk about the long exposure thing, but the clouds these were slow moving clouds, but clouds that are coming over the camera with the wide angle lens would appear to move a lot faster than the clouds further away from the camera. So if you're going for a longer depth of sky like that, you have to use a much longer exposure to get it. But the exposure itself is actually 125 at f11. But it's like 1,000 frame averaged in the camera to spit out an image like this. So same thing, and this is what it actually looks like. They're both good images. So I started this project right at the beginning of COVID because I had nothing else to do. So I went around and started shooting pictures of Cleveland because I actually read the manual for the camera, and I didn't realize that they had this firmware upgrade to the Phase 1 camera that I was using that allowed for frame averaging. I didn't know what it was till COVID. So this is only benefit of COVID really for me. So there's another one looking up at the Beacon building, and of course the Guardians. So this is what the still image is, and this is with long exposure. From the Garfield Monument, and of course moving. So this image is doing the same thing, but I actually ended up liking this picture better because it had a much better cloud formation than the frame averaged one. One of the early ones, this is the Museum of Art, of course, and then you got the reflection on the water too. This one was probably only, the clouds were going fast, so maybe it was only 30 seconds or a minute. But it's a sort of, when I do these, it's the sort of thing where I can kind of see where the clouds are, and I know when I can actually stop the exposure. So I might set the camera for 5 minutes, and I could stop it at any point and let it save at that point. This one, so occasionally I do some Photoshop on this, because if you do a long exposure like this, all the branches on the trees in front will be moving. So whenever I use the still image occasionally to put the still trees back in the shot. Otherwise, they're all too blurry. But I'm still kind of a purist on this whole thing. But occasionally, I'll add something in like that when I have to. This is an interesting use of this because, well, first of all, you get a train going through, so you get the movement. The other thing is, if you're doing a large cityscape like this, you can even see like the BP building or whatever they call it now, the Huntington building. Do you know I'm old enough that I climbed around on the beams in the BP building when they were building it? I might look like a child up here, but really I'm not. But to light up the whole city, like a 2-minute exposure is what you really need to do because a lot of that city goes in the shadow as the clouds are moving. But if you're doing a long exposure, you're going to get light on each of the buildings, or most of them anyways. This is 4x5 color transparency of the concerts that the orchestra used to do on Public Square. And it's the last time they shot off fireworks around the Terminal Tower because now it's all renovated. And then this is being in like 3 places at the same time. So I'm actually standing on a scaffolding right above the light blue circle you see on the right. There was a scaffolding for photographers, but earlier in the day I mounted a camera to the stage trusses so that I can shoot down the street to get the fireworks. And I think I had another camera at the other end pointing in the other direction. This was the inaugural lighting of the chandelier. This is the orchestra on the mall doing their outdoor concert. And this is from the top of the, what do they call it? The medical hub building now? I'm not sure what they call it. Anyways, this is a three image stitch. So there's 3 images stitched together here, and that's why it's got like a funky look to it. But it's just handheld, just 1, 2, 3. And this sort of thing, the concert's only like 40 minutes long, and I always start out shooting down at the stage, and then I have it set up to where I can get in the building and get up top and get the shots that I need up top. And if we talk about the shooting at Severance Hall, it's a lot of the same thing where I have to move around a lot. Blossom. This is also 2 cameras. Well, it's 2 images put together. I'm actually shooting in the shell, but this is an image that I want to get because the sun always goes down while I'm shooting. So actually, like the sky is the clouds on the left are kind of ghosted in with the rest of the image on the right. That's to bring that, because the other thing that happens, like if you ever see the fireworks pictures that we shoot, there's nobody sitting in their seats because everybody has to come out to see the concert. So we want to have pictures of people in their seats as well. That partial eclipse of the sun a few years ago. And fortunately, this boat moved in to make the picture. But I don't know what the guy was doing with the tripod on his boat. I'm not sure that would work. The wider shot of the eclipse. That same view from the beach there. So this is the Cleveland Orchestra back when they were doing the renovations there, building a new stage and the stairs. And this is how it looks now. And they keep the lighting's all LED now, where they change it up and change the colors and do all kinds of things. Where before we had just like the big mercury vapor lamps that would light it up inside the foyer. So this is on the, I think the 23 millimeter on the phase 1 view camera. This is actually film, 4x5 film. Prior to that, so you could see the green mercury vapor lamps lighting up the building. And this is the stage right before they opened up. And in fact, I think there's plastic sheeting on the seats below. You can't really see it on this one, obviously. So part of the orchestra gig is to go on their tours. And I've been to Europe a whole bunch of times on like 3-week-long tours, city to city to city, or the Far East. And this is Salzburg, and this is, if you ever seen the Sound of Music where they sing at the end, this is the riding school where they sing. They sing Edelweiss. And then we would go out to, musicians would always go out to like a music shop where they make they actually make the horns in this shop, or they might go to a string shop, or they'll go to a violin shop and check out the instruments. So here they're making the horns here. And this is, I think, in Germany, everyone is outside warming up. Lucerne, and rather than taking the route around the lake, they took the boat across the lake. It's a really small lake. I mean, it's a small end of the lake. This is back in Severance Hall. There's a bunch of pictures of this, but I put them in because they're actually because I'm using remotes, it's kind of like the same image from different angles. So I'm shooting, there's a window I shoot, like a panel I designed where I pull back and I can shoot through there. And then this is from my remote camera. It's taking the center shot. You could actually see well, you can't really see in this, but I'm in the front row there where I walk down taking pictures, and my cameras are setting off the other cameras. Jumping around a little bit, this is in Miami, so there's a lot of outreach that the musicians do when we're in a city like this, and they're teaching some classes at the local high school. This is the Miami Arts Center, and this is a remote because I have a camera set up in the very behind. There's it's the front of the camera is going through a curtain. Back in the hall, this is from a remote that's hanging from the railing. And this is handheld. So when I'm shooting a concert, I'm walking around to different areas to get different views. And like I'll go up top, I'll go down the floor, and I can shoot from the false boxes, which are these two. This is the false boxes. There's curtains here, but they do video now, so a lot of the spaces are occupied by the video cameras. But this is also one of the windows I had put. So during the renovation, I had windows put in back here that you could remove the wood, as well as in the doors over here. I never used that one because the bass players are always in front of it. But they're like panels you pull out. Again, from the back window. And this is from the side window. There's a lot of guest conductors that come through, and we shoot more of that than we do Franz. We have lots of pictures of Franz. This is Klaus Michaela, and he just got hired by the Chicago Symphony. And the Cleveland musicians are a little sour about that because they wanted him to come to Cleveland. But Cleveland doesn't have direct flights back to Europe. So he's a jet setter. Because he's actually like in charge of other orchestras too. I think he's like 29 or 32. He's really young. So that's the video in the back. There's a video camera on rails. So they have a huge. I don't know, is anybody ever familiar with Adela? It's the online thing you can watch. There's cameras everywhere. It's a huge production. I think the Maltz Family Foundation gave the orchestra like $50 million to build out a whole video production piece to do all this work. Backstage before a concert. During COVID, when he's in the Pope Mobile thing. Also during COVID, when the musicians gave their own concerts. Started to rain, obviously. So this is the side window at Blossom. Always have to make sure that the flag is moved so I can shoot. So a little history back in the day with film. So like 30 years, I've been shooting with the orchestra since maybe 90 or 92. And we never shot in the hall until like the bows. We'd wait to come out to take pictures of them standing on the edge of the stage. Or there was one window available, and it was like in the liquor closet. So you had to like move the liquor away to shoot through this hole because the cameras made so much noise. And I convinced them that if I had these blimps that they're used in Hollywood, these are camera blimps. These are modern ones, actually. I think I've been through a couple iterations of these. Finally convinced them that I could be out in the hall shooting. And now it's like take it for granted that you can go out in the hall and shoot because all the cameras are silent now. Not all of them, but if you use the right ones, they have silent shutters. So there's a lot more people shooting at Severance Hall because it's easy. Easy to be silent, easy to walk around. This is up in the rafters at Blossom. Occasionally, I got to get my harness on and climb the beam up and go sit where the spotlights are. It's really hot up there. And this is the back window at Blossom. It's I have to have my milk crate to stand on to get to the right height to shoot out there. And so these are the remotes I'm talking about at Severance Hall. And I clamp them in a whole bunch of different ways, and they're cabled in, they're double cabled, and there's a pocket wizard to set them off. And I can either set them off with a pocket wizard on top of my camera or with my hand. And this is the back window. I had I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I had them cut away the felt. So the organ pipes in the back of the hall that you see are they're fake, and this is black felt, and so we could pull this away and kind of shoot through the ornamentation that's there. There's another rig set up. And this is the windows I'm talking about there on the side of the hall. And so you pull out the paneling there. This is what it looks like. And so to be above the orchestra, you have to have the boxes to stand on. And this is quite often the orchestra members play off stage. This is sort of an extreme one because they're actually, this is an opera where they go out on they have a sort of a scaffolding set up where the opera singers can go stand on. So this is the Trina the harp player doing a piece there, but they'll quite often play like in the hallways. So this is a gun going off, and I forget which, oh, I think this is the opera, I think The Girl of the Golden West maybe, if I have the name right, and there's a scene where he shoots the gun. And so, and the other thing is, there's a reason why that they use the old-fashioned TVs. It's because it's an immediate signal. If you're using a flat screen TV, it's digitally processed, and there's a bit like of a couple millisecond delay. And so if you want to be on time with the conductor, you have to have the fastest signal. Again, there's the little window. That's my setup after a concert, sorting everything out. So after a concert, it's like a 10-hour job. I go shoot a concert, go home. We try to edit until maybe 1 a.m., get back up at 5:30 a.m., edit, and then deliver everything by 10. And so the remotes actually like make it really hard because I'm adding like each remote adds like 300 pictures to my editing process that I have to go through. So I kind of motor through those to find something, and then the rest of the ones I more seriously look through. And then they're processed, and you got to color balance everything. The lights are not like true. They're LED, but they're not truly tungsten balanced. So there's a lot of balancing. And the other problem is cameras don't match. I've tried to get. You can white balance your cameras against a gray card, and if you look at the settings, it's different numbers for each one of them, and that's a big deal when you're trying to color correct images from 5 different cameras. Quite often, I'll sort them by serial number so that I'm working on one camera, the next camera, so that I can apply those color settings to the individual sets. The ceiling looking up in the foyer, set up for the choir. This is back in the organ loft. Another remote set up on this side. This is the center remote. This is a recent concert with, I think, Wynton Marsalis composition. And there he is sitting in the audience. Oh, sorry. He's sitting in the audience. This is from the lower level window, and then on stage after the concert. This is the Magic Flute opera from, was it last year or the year before? Anyways, it's recent. And again, I had remotes everywhere, so there's pictures from all angles. And then the choir comes out to sing for a piece of it. So this is obviously back at Blossom during the movies, and I'm shooting from upstairs in the rafter. What's his name? Smeg? Is that his name? The guy with the ring? Gollum, yeah. And so this is an offstage setup for the trumpet players. The one time they had the Joffrey Ballet at Blossom. I'm better at controlling this now, but this is an obvious tungsten light and daylight hitting the audience. So you have the blue light for the daylight. And I think this is in here this is back in Miami. Oh, and the reason why, there weren't many people at the concert. So you just make sure you darken it. Backstage at Severance, another offstage horn setup. John Williams conducting. Another one of their operas. and the Public Square concerts. And this is the mall concert. And Yak Elling, who was one of our assistant conductors out at Blossom. And so the trick to getting a shot like this is that you bring your family and you bring glow-in-the-dark stuff and you have them sit there. My kids have been used for a lot of things. There was my son in the helicopter, and there's a lot of like pictures of them all over the place. They get used. They're kind of sick of me. The fireworks. Like I said, the audience clears out, and then to watch the fireworks. And if you've shot fireworks, you know, you got to have a clear sky. The wind has to be going the right direction. Low humidity. It's the first few explosions that work. The rest, the cloud gets there's too much smoke in the cloud. The sky. Back in Public Square. And a lot of this, these pictures just don't happen. You got to decide, how are we going to borrow an office? Where can we stand? Where can we set up a camera? What roof can we get on? Backstage again. This is the previous Franz is talking to the previous librarian before the concert. Part of it is always shooting what's on stage and turning around and shooting the fans, the patrons also. And so there I am. You see me down there with the camera shooting the patrons, and my remote camera is getting my picture. Selfie. So this is a series of pictures with remotes. So I'm shooting this handheld. The remotes are getting this from the sides. That's their Halloween concert. Backstage bell. It's really, really, really loud. And so this is kind of back to how you get picked up to be a shooter for something. This is, I had been shooting the theaters already for many years. I was shooting at the Cleveland Institute of Music, and the New York Times was one of my editorial clients, and they had me shoot Christoph doing some work at Severance Hall. So that's how the orchestra became aware of me. So these things, like everything builds on another. There's Christoph in his dressing room studying music. He's recently passed away. So this is probably color negative film scanned. So we went from color slide to color negative, and then digital. This is in China in the Great Hall. And this is early digital, which is just terrible. Like the blacks, everything just turns to mud. This is early digital. You could tell the difference. You can also tell he's a lot older here and a lot younger there. This is the light and sound room right off stage. Backstage in Miami. The ballet. This is at Playhouse Square. And there's the orchestra providing the sound. And they just shot this a couple weeks ago. This is the Notebook tour. That the Notebook, the show, the Broadway show, just started here in Cleveland, and now it's doing it's on tour for a year. So this is the rain scene. And so I shot a dress rehearsal like I typically do, but then we came back and they had like a full Hollywood production of 4 video cameras and a director shooting, and I kind of had to shoot around them to do more pictures. It's unusual. And then, so there's a whole bunch of pictures from Cleveland Playhouse and Great Lakes Theater, and I've been their photographer since '85 or '86, shooting all their productions. I've shoot about at least 40 productions a year, orchestra and theater. And then like that's my night job, and then my day job is all my corporate shooting. I think it's Robin Hood, Cleveland Playhouse. And this was actually a production with the Cleveland Orchestra and the Cleveland Playhouse. So the Cleveland Orchestra is on stage at the Cleveland Playhouse. You can see them there. This is from a remote camera set up on the railings on the edge. We want to get pictures of a performance with audience. This is Great Lakes Theater, which is more, if any of you go to Great Lakes Theater, familiar with them? Great Lakes Theater is more of an ensemble where they do all the shows, so you see the same actors from one show to the next. Cleveland Playhouse is more of, people audition from all over to come perform. These are productions from last year. This is the Jack and Jill, or the Beanstalk. I don't know what it's called. Beanstalk play. Macbeth. And what's really interesting is over the years, I've shot the same play, and it's always, staged differently, staged in a different time, or they might do a Shakespeare play and they're dressed in Nazi uniforms versus something else. So it's always interesting, the staging, how they change it up. And so Christmas Carol or Scrooge, they've been doing this production for probably like 30 years, 25 years. I think I shoot it every couple of years or when they change out the actors. So this is from a number of different productions. This one was lit nicely, though. And then this was one of the original ones, shot on film and scanned. You can see the difference. Pretty bad. Do we want me to stop? Because this is just this is the last. This is a tour in 2022 of the European tour. Do you want to do questions and answers right now, or do you want to see more pictures? Keep going. Okay. So this is the 2022 European tour, and it's kind of out of order. This is Lucerne. This is the I forget the name of the concert hall there, but it's got this huge cantilevered roof that sits out over the water. Make some interesting pictures there. This is where the tour started. This is in Hamburg, and I forget the name of the hall, but it's like cost probably $1 billion or something. It's a huge deal, and there's like condos in it, and then there's the performance space in it. This is looking out the windows there. This is Nathaniel. He's warming up before they can get into the hall. This is inside the hall. There's windows everywhere on the back side. This is the performance space inside the hall. And so the rehearsals, so with a tour, usually like the first city you're in, you're probably there for 4 days because it gets everybody acclimated, and then they're warming up and relearning the music that they're going to perform. And after that, it starts going pretty fast. Like you might do something every other day or something. You move pretty quickly. And again, I'm processing these pictures, and if the bus leaves at 6 a.m. the next morning, or the train or whatever, you got to have everything done and delivered and go. And so this is interesting because on the left, this is Alan Gilbert, and he was one of our assistant conductors, I think in the probably the 90s. And but he's the music director at this hall in Hamburg now. He was the music director of the New York Philharmonic for many years before he changed it up. Backstage. This is in Prague. That's the first time they played in Prague in a long time. This is from a remote camera I have set up over the orchestra. And this is moving around the hall. This is the outside of the concert hall. And that's the river outside. And this is in Amsterdam. I think it's the Concertgebouw. And this is probably my remote, or there's a window. I forget what I'm shooting from here. That's the outside of it. There's a lot of that going on. Hans maintaining his horn. He's a lube job there. And this is Jonathan Sherwin doing his reeds. They cut their own reeds, and he's got to measure them and make sure they're the right thickness. I think he plays contrabassoon, so he's got the reed for that. A tradition at the concert hall in Germany, I don't know. They have beer, anyways, backstage. And this is the hall. It looks like the flying saucer on top. This is a remote probably in Berlin. No, well, I probably out of order. No, maybe this is in Hamburg. And so, can you tell what's different here? There's a horn. This is that famous hall in Vienna, which the name, forget the name of it. Anyways, there's a remote on the railing there. Everything's old there and creaky, and it's hard to move around, and you can't stand in the hall. That's the outside of it. And this is the St. Florian Abbey, where Franz used to be a choir boy. And I think Bruckner, they're playing Bruckner, and I think he might be buried beneath the church there. So you have to figure out how to whenever you get into one of these concert halls, you have to figure out how to get around the hall, where you're going to stand, how to get from point A to point B. Are you going to get locked out of the hall? You know, there's usually security between the backstage and where the patrons are. And that's the beginning. So that's it.
Well, Roger, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm darn near speechless, but I think some of the audience is not. So if anybody has any questions, raise your hand because we need you on the mic. Okay, Nick?
Yeah, I'm just curious about your background. Where are you from? Where did you train? How did you become what you are, which is obviously a lot?
Might not have had that one on before.
What was the bottom? Yeah. Okay, so sorry. I'm actually an accountant. I'm not a photographer. No, I went to Cleveland State. I have a degree in accounting. But I grew up in a whole family of journalists and photographers. So my father was the entertainment editor at the Cleveland Press. So I knew about the entertainment business from him. I have two of my brothers actually went to school to become photographers. One was a photographer in Norwalk, Ohio, and the other one is here in Cleveland. And he works at the Cleveland Institute of Art right now. And I have a cousin in New York City who has the John F. Kennedy Award for photojournalism. And anytime you see pictures of domestic violence, they're her pictures, and she has a number of books on domestic violence. So she's like the cause celeb for anything with the women's movements for that. So I learned a lot from them. And then from there, so at Cleveland State, where I went to school, there was a job open for the picture editor of the college newspaper. And I knew how to take pictures, and they didn't have a communications department, so there really wasn't any competition for the job. So that's where I kind of got my basic training in sports. And then from there, so like this doesn't happen much anymore, but we used to go around to photo studios to apprentice. Nobody comes around to do that anymore. They don't want to learn in person. It's a weird thing, but that's how you learn. You work for other photographers. You assist. I have assistants now that, they're learning from me, but I tend to use like people that are real professionals because they you don't have to really tell them what to do, and it's certainly a lot easier. A lot of times somebody says they want to be assistant, and they'll come and then I'll see them getting out of a light stand, and they're looking at it like they don't even know which end. I'm sorry, I'm not being like sort of rude here, but they really don't know. I'm like, I need like a certain level of help. I can't be telling you how to open up a light stand. So that's my basic background.
Any other questions? Oh, come on, guys. I had 20 questions while he was showing it. I guess you're allowed, even though you're close.
So, to what extent do you work the faces on your portraiture in Photoshop?
In faces in Photoshop?
Yeah.
That's a good question because everybody wants to get like super glammed up, and there's has to be like a reality to it. I clean up the specks on people's faces. I might smooth the skin just a little bit. I think my goal is always to like bring people back 5 years. I think that's kind of like a legal standard, I suppose. And most of them are lawyers, so they have to be kind of honest in who they are. But again, like see, it's constantly changing in the software. You know, if you're using, so I use Capture One to process now. I've always used Capture One because that's the software that came with the Phase One cameras that I was using. But now they have a face retouching thing, and there's these little beautiful sliders. You just slide a little thing over, and the blemishes disappear, and the skin smooths a little bit. But the really stupid part of it is that it doesn't fix their necks. Okay, so anyways, that's the extent of the facial fix-ups.
Those shots were overwhelming, and I
Thanks.
related to so many of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, well done. So your challenge with getting things done by 1 o'clock in the morning and then getting up on 5 o'clock in the morning. I've done that myself. What?
What kind of speed do I take?
No, what? No, I know which kind.
Exactly.
There's only a couple.
Yeah.
No, what AI new functionality or tools have you brought any of that into the equation to help with the workflow? Not to change the image itself,
No.
but to help the culling of the images.
No, I haven't, and it
Yeah.
probably should, but I really haven't. I think from what I've read, part of the problem is that if I know there's a couple programs that bring the pictures in. I think they have to sort of digest the pictures themselves first, and
Yeah.
I could do that. It's probably in the same amount of time that it takes, and then like with all of this, you're talking about computing power, and again, so processing raw images, and as these computers got faster, now it takes like 5 minutes to process 200 pictures or 500 pictures, depending where it might have taken me 30 minutes before. These were all real like time constraints in getting a job done. How fast was it building the previews for me to actually work on them? How fast to spit them out afterwards? All like roadblocks along the way. How fast can I upload? One of the biggest time savers was getting fiber at my house and at the studio. It was a gigabit connection.
Yeah, for sure.
Boom! Like I upload 5 gigabytes in a minute or less. So
Yeah.
so no AI yet really. I suppose they call AI in the program when it's doing the face
denoise and things like that.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't really do much. Well, the noise thing just makes the pictures too muddy. I don't really use it. Just use the extent of what the basic setup is in Capture One.
Yep. Thanks.
What was the brand or the type of strobes you were using?
So I started out with Dynalights, Dynalights, which are the electric strobes. I started using those, and I've switched to ProPhoto. ProPhoto is like a love-hate relationship because they're so expensive. But worse is they basically like discontinue them so that you have to buy the next one, and then they, like for instance, my favorite strobe, and there was in some of the shots, is a ProPhoto B4, and it's a 1200 watt power pack. It weighs probably 25 pounds. I could hang it on the stand for weight. It has a bulb head, so like the new strobes, like the ProPhoto B1s, they're all the strobes that have the flat heads that shoot through the modifiers. I think they're a little rough on the skin. So a bare bulb strobe, you've got the light emitting outwards into the modifier. It's a little softer on the skin, and plus it recycles faster. So I can use those, and when you're an outdoor light, you're doing outdoor portraits, and you need 1,000 watts or you need 800 watts. You can recycle and do that, and like you're limited. So we're hitting all these constraints on cameras right now. I'll I'll take the Sony A1 outside because on a mechanical shutter it'll sync at 400, whereas the other cameras are at 200. That's a big deal when you're shooting outside. Or the medium format cameras, those synced up to 1600th of a second. Or the Sony A9 IIIs don't even have a shutter, and I could sync to the limit of the strobe. It's like you could sync at 3,000ths of a second, but the strobe's not gonna actually work at 3,000ths of a second. So there's all kinds of constraints there. But yes, ProPhoto now, till I probably quit and just throw the stuff away because you can't get parts for it anymore. Well, so the interesting, the B4 thing, so like you can't get batteries for them anymore. You have to get them rebuilt. And so it's a $1,200 battery, and you could send it someplace, and they'll put, for $600, they'll put new cells in it. But if the casing that the cells in is burned out, like the board, they can't replace it. So I found a Photoshop that had the B4. It's a $5,000 strobe. And since it was discontinued, he wasn't really allowed to sell it. But he sold it to me for $1,500, which was basically the cost of a new battery. So I got another power pack and a battery. So I'm saying, like, I have this gear, but I'm not going to be able to service it or repair it or anything going forward.
On your remote cameras that you had set up,
Yes.
how did you release them?
So those are Pocket Wizards. It's kind of the industry standard for, and so that's a direct result of sports shooting. So if you ever see a basketball game, there's cameras mounted on the backboards. Those are all synced up with Pocket Wizard radios. And you're either firing with your hand, you have a foot switch, or you put it in the hot shoe of your camera. And now with the digital cameras and the mechanical shutter, silent shutter, there's you have to trip them, you'd have to have the mechanical shutter on to trip them. So there's a lot of little things that happen with that, but that's the basic way, is Pocket Wizard. That Pocket Wizard was what we used to use for setting off the strobes. It's the same device you put on the top of your camera to fire your strobe remotely.
Okay, we have a question about the shots where you had the skies on the 5-minute exposure.
Yes.
What kind of filters were you using?
There's no filters. It's the beauty of it. Polarizer maybe to maybe
Okay.
darken the blues.
But that's it.
No. So if you go to my website, I did this thing. I'm not really I'm not a paid phase one artist, but they have like an artist section. It describes the process. What the process is the phase one camera. It's the only one that can do it, and it's super expensive. But it's like because I've been shooting phase one forever, it's kind of just like a rental, because you just kind of upgrade every few years and they get you the new one for whatever. But what it's doing, so say the exposure is 125 at f11. It's taking that image 700 times and averaging it in camera, and you get one raw file out at the end. So you could do that in Photoshop. You could take 500 images and you can average them together. I don't even know how you write a script or something. It's the same thing. So like if you do one, there's on my website, I think there's a picture in front of the stadium where you see a security guard standing there and some people kind of moving. That's probably like a 10-second exposure or 20-second exposure. So you can sort of see the stop motion of the people, and because the security guard was just standing there, he's obviously in one place. Explain it to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And the other thing is that with the phase one, so I don't really use. If I know I'm going to shoot something where the sky is going to be so much different than the ground, then I still have my filters for the top and the neutral density filters. But the dynamic range of that camera is like so many stops that it's almost unnecessary.
Anybody else? No, come on. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure. You could. Okay, we'll get to it. All right.
So what do you aspire to do in the future?
I don't know. That's a tough question because, this is like a really great hobby, right? But it's like my work too. So I don't know if I want to work anymore. So I don't know. I'd like to do a book on the orchestra. I'd like to do a book of images, but maybe I just don't want to do that anymore. I think what part of the thing is I'm physically drowning in images. So much so that I just don't want to see it. So that's a bad answer, right?
No, that's looking backwards.
Looking forwards? Well, that's looking forwards with the backwards bulk that I have to carry with me. I look at a studio full of, 20 years of negatives and prints, and what am I going to do with that? That's the sort of weight that I carry. And so that has a direct effect on going forward. But landscape photography, there's a lot on my website that I enjoy doing that because, there's nobody to bother me or anything. I enjoy doing that. It's a good reason, like landscape photography it's a really good reason to go someplace. That's basically it. So
How physical is your job when you're setting up all those cameras and lights?
it's pretty physical. I mean, the gear in my truck probably weighs 400 pounds or so. I have a four-wheel cart. That's the assistants help me, but we're both working. The concert, shooting the concerts is very physical. That if I look at my little stepometer in my phone, it's probably like 12,000 steps and elevation changes of 10 times going up and down the stairs. So yeah, it's a lot of work. That's why I'm short for carrying all the cameras.
Anybody else? Well, Roger Mastroianni,
Very good.
we thank you
What's
so much.
with the first name, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Guys, hang around. Don't disappear. Hang around, socialize. I'm glad to see so many people here at the club. So.